Alright. Akkam jirtu baga nagaan dhuftanii warri Jirra miidiyaa har'aa obboleettota keenya ijoollee Oromoo daasporaa keessatti dhalatanii guddatanii wajjin jirra. Har'a waa'ee afaan ofii aadaa Oromoo irratti haasofna. Aadaan afaan Oromoo yookaan immoo advocacy'n Oromoo Oromummaan ijoollee dhaloota daasporaa keessatti guddatan keessatti maal akka dhiibbaa akkamii hojjechaa jiranii yookaan immoo maal barachaa akka jiran nutti himu. So welcome to Jirra Media. Thank you, Tay and Sartu. I know you guys Sartu work with volunteer or work with Ola, and Tay you work or you're learning Afan Oromo. So yeah, tell us about. I'm going to tell you guys about me. I am Lelo. I'm a board member at OCM, or Oromo Community of Minnesota. I grew up in America, in Minnesota particularly. I went to high school, college. I moved from back home when I was 12 and grew up here. My uncle raised me. So I love my Oromummaa. Afaan Oromoo baay'een jaalladha. Baay'een itti haasa'aa. I'm sure you guys are so proud of that. And I saw your interview and it was so beautiful and so impressive. So tell us about you guys. Start and then Tay follow.
Okay, yeah, my name is Sarsu. Donko Sartun Jatama. I'm Canadian, so I was born and raised in Canada, specifically Toronto. I go to school, I'm volunteering with Ola, and yeah, I'm just trying to, do little things that can make a difference in my community or just have me be a part of my community, so that, I'm still building my Oromummaa.
Hi, everybody. Oh, my bad. I started talking. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So my name is Taylor Amari Little, but Tay, if you're seeking to refer to me on a first name basis. My pronouns are she, her, and he, him. I am based in Detroit, Michigan. My family is also primarily located in Detroit, Michigan, but we also have people who are still down south. So we're African American, but our heritages are also primarily Soninke, Akan, Fulbe are also known as the Fulani, Wolof, and also Oromo from the Hararge region. And I am a diviner and a conjure woman and overall lover of research and history. And so I work with spirits and different creatures for a living. And I also help Black people, especially Black multi-marginalized people, thinking about Black, queer, and trans individuals, become more reconnected with their ancestors and their lineages, and helping to just reconnect those different spiritual technologies that have been lost over time due to colonialism. And my work is oftentimes primarily rooted in Hoodoo and Islam. And Hoodoo is the first and oldest traditional distinctly African-American religion. When we talk about Hoodoo, it's referring to the culmination of our continental spiritual systems that we brought here with us, that came about and kind of formed together in a very unique way. And so it does have like its certain structures. We have our own divinities. We have our different pacts with the land. It even looks different throughout the South, throughout the North of present day United States, things like that. But it's a really beautiful experience. And yeah, I mean, it's part of what has led me here today to learning Afan Oromo.
Thank you so much, Tay. We appreciate it. It was when I listened to your the interview you did started with Tay and Anto. It was like so impressive for me. Like since I grew up, it's so relatable. Like so many things that common things or experiences that young people go through, like finding identity or Oromummaa in abroad. So my first question will be for Sartu or both of you, what is Oromummaa for you, like in the diaspora or in the abroad, how do you, since you're learning Afan Oromo, or when start to say I am relearning, it was like, wow, like we're trying to find ourselves and connect ourselves to our heritage and keep Afan Oromo grow and then learn. So what is Oromuma for you in abroad? Like, start, you can start since um,
Okay, I would say Oromo for me is like it's your Oromoness, but I think it depends on a couple of things. Like it depends on your family, it depends on your community, kind of the things that you're able to learn. So I feel like for me, Oromo started in my home. I feel like my parents were very like my mom at home speaks primarily Afan Oromo. She doesn't like she knows English, but at home it's her first language, so she speaks primarily in Afan Oromo. And my grandmother, we were very close to our grandmother growing up, and she speaks 5 languages, but she doesn't speak English. So for me, growing up, I had to sort of break up Afan Oromo and learn it like that. And so that struggle to learn Afan Oromo made me, appreciate it so much more because I would be on the phone and just ture, like I used to like it was so bad. But like thankfully, because of her, like I feel like I'm more comfortable speaking it now. And now I ask her things, what's this, what's that? And so yeah, for me Oromo started in the home, and now I'm trying to bring it to the community and get involved in my community. And yeah.
thank you. What about you, Tay? I know it's kind of like a new for you, like probably since 2020, right?
Yeah, around
So can you tell us
2019.
more about on that? Also, can you tell us, like, have you even checked an accessory.com to see if, like,
Oh,
you know what I mean? So go ahead if you can touch on that.
okay, sure. So I would say that Oromummaa is it's related to your connection to Oromia, like the essence of the land, like the spirit of the land, but also the spirits themselves who are tied to that land. And I think for me, um, and the life that I live and the people who I'm around, it's also like being African American, we are also a continuation of lineages here
Mhm.
on this land, but we also have our own culture. And so I think that this is a really unique position because we're like, as JT Perry, she once said, like we have like a lot of hybridity in our culture. So it's like a lot of, we're just like hybrids kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say it like that because it sounds like really science fiction-y, but, but yeah, I mean, for me, Oromia is part of that. For me, you know, I told you like there's a certain standard of what hoodoo is. Like we do have our own set, like divinities, different pacts with the land, etc. But what I'm here to do as well is just help spread more information about the fact that there's actually a lot more of African American people with East African heritage than we would have maybe originally thought, and also that that shows up in hoodoo as well. That shows up in our work with our ancestors as well, who we already work with, and that Oromo spirits, Oromo ancestors, they're claiming to reclaim their children. And, so it's also, there's a lot of really intense work that happens with that. And so for me, Oromia is in my hoodoo as well. And so that is like how my Oromuma is. That's how it is. Or Oromuma. Yeah, sorry. I just want to make sure I said that right. But yeah, so in terms of like ancestry.com, that's not something that I've done before. Honestly, all of the ways that I've come to learn about my heritages have happened. All of them have happened through working with spirits. Whether it's through whether it came up directly to me, like directly to me as opposed to someone else and then to me, or vice versa. It's just all these different really interesting ways that they've shown up. So even thinking about like my mom, and like her primary ancestry dealing with like the Wolof people, for example. I talk about this a little bit in Tay in the Water podcast. Actually, there's a episode 15 where we talk a lot about comparing um comparing Western ancestry technologies and systems to just Black spirit tech, because in Black spirit technologies and our indigenous traditions, we already know that there's so much that like the West just can't really fathom like that, including like the science of things, like including understanding like who we are, and including understanding like the world and just how things work. And so for us, like this is normal for like just, we find out through dreams, we find out through, diviners, so like sitting in a reading, or sitting in a divination, and you're hearing from this diviner who is working with your spirits. Oh, your spirits are announcing themselves, and like they're speaking this specific language. I recognize this vocabulary, this is where they're from, they're pointing to this specific land. They want you to learn more about blank. And then so there's like all these really unique ways that our spirits will uh, intervene to make sure that we know about ourselves. And that's something that, is always happening. Like it's an ongoing process. And so for me, like, again, like going back to the question of ancestry.com, I'm not really interested. I'm not that interested, to be honest, just because over the past couple of years, um, my spirits make themselves known in the ways that they want to, and there just hasn't been a need for it. There's so many different groups. I just feel like I'm okay with working with who I got to work with, and letting them reveal themselves at their own pace, especially because it's in such an intentional way. And like the certain names that they'll give, like of the ethnic groups that they, identify with, the certain terminologies they want to use to describe themselves. Ancestry.com is not going to tell you all of that. It's going to make all these big guesses, and that's not even, they admit themselves that like, yeah, there's like a range, and it could change over time, because we're just really working with like the samples that we have, and we don't have a lot of samples from insert place. And and also sometimes their countries will be like, or sometimes like how they list the results will focus on countries. And those borders are also like not fake, like those borders have also very recently been there. And so it's better, in my opinion, like as a diviner in this profession, like to just work with your spirits, because if you're curious about your ancestors, why not just ask them?
Nice, very impressive, honestly. I was just curious to know, like, if you ever thought so. Thank you for that. And so, Sarto, you say Oromummaa starts at home. So since you start working with Ola or before, like, are you speaking Afaan Oromo, mostly like making it practical, or is there like, what's the difficult, like, what is the hardest thing on keeping the language like learn or continue to use it?
Yeah, so for me, I think like 2 or 3 years ago, I said to my mom, I was like, you know what? Starting now, I'm only going to speak Afaan Oro to you. If I start speaking in English, like keep me in check, ask me to speak in Afaan Oro. And so I think that was like, yeah, like 2 or 3 years ago. And so ever since then, like now with my mom at home, because she's always there, I try to speak to her in Afaan Oromo if I have to tell her something, if I'm like trying to tell a story, just for me to use it more and get comfortable speaking at home so then I can speak to other people. Um, and whenever I call my grandmother, I call her quite often, and I'll try to tell her about something I watched, on YouTube, or I'll try to tell her about my day, and just like force myself to like lengthen the time that I'm speaking. And so that really has helped. Like in the home, and like my siblings will say, "Wow, your fun Oromo got so much better." I'm like, "Oh, thank you." So just forcing myself to practice and making myself accountable has really helped, and I think I've noticed my improvement. So I'd recommend it to anybody else that wants to practice. Just force yourself to, and it doesn't have to be like super super long conversation. It could be little conversations every day, um, so that you can improve.
Thank you, Sarto. How about your Tay? Like, since you start learning Afaan Oromo,
Mm-hmm.
have you been making any connection, like, or try to practice Afaan Oromo with, like, in class, or are you done with class, or is the class still going? So, what is there difficulty or like obstacles that you run into? Of course, this is a need for you, but then it's your stuff, so like you're so eager to learn. So what is your thought on that?
Yeah, I feel like so the class itself like has ended recently, but the beautiful thing about it is that, there was so much emphasis on like meet friends like in the class, like, connect with other people, things like that. And so and so it's like, those connections haven't stopped just because the class has stopped. And even like with Barcisa, like I don't know. I feel like I said this last time, but I was like, it's like we adopted a grandfather. That's how it feels like, because he like checks in and stuff like on WhatsApp, and then so that has me speaking like Afan there too. Just getting to practice, and then he'll like correct me. But we get to practice that way, and then also again like getting there was a study buddy who I had in the class. And so while we would have the class like twice a week, we would also have like our session another point at the week. So that was a lot of practice as well. And so remaining in contact with them, for example, has been good. And just putting different things in place, like trying to integrate different things in my life to where I'm making sure I'm using the vocabulary, using the phrases so I don't forget. And even like practicing, like speaking to my ancestors and, reading certain prayers, things like that has been just really helpful. Just like trying to find excuses to like bring it up. Like I'll be with my friends and we'll like try to practice things in our respective languages, and we'll be like, oh, what's that like in your language, and then they'll ask the same thing, and then we'll try to think about it and be like and so that's like been really helpful. Let me see, what was the other part of your question? There was a second part to that. It was about the something with struggling. What was that part?
Is it difficult to make a connection, like what you learn, and then sometimes like a language like start to say like I am a witness too, like if you don't
Mhm.
practice it and use it, you lose it. And so like you're learning, now the class ends, like what is the difficult thing you're running into, like in learning or keeping a Oromo
Mm.
continue to be useful for you?
That's a good question. Mm, I just need to make sure not to forget to practice. I think that's like the biggest thing. Yeah, I just need to make sure, because I feel like, and I just started paying attention to this recently, where mm, like I think when we are having the class, like especially so frequently, it's like it's at the forefront of your mind some more. So like if you take a break like from the class, then it's like it's just like a little bit less in the forefront. And so I think just trying to I just need to make sure that I like don't forget to also practice it. I think that's like really the primary struggle, if you wanna refer to it that way. Um but yeah, I don't know. I think it's going pretty fine.
That's good. So glad, so happy to honestly, like as a young people, like uh what I learned when Ajalu passed away to 2020, what I learned, there's a huge gap uh,
Mm.
in between the younger generation, even the elderly or the people over 40. And there was a huge gap, and like our young people are so eager to learn their history, like they say, like they want to know about their parents or grandparents, what they went through. And then the parent or grandparent were not, now they're better, but we're not willing to say because they don't want them to learn like the pain. Not everybody is, but some people don't want to share because they're busy or don't have time, or cultural clash. Like, Sartre can attest to this. Like, you grew up here, but then like your mom knows like more of the Oromo culture. It's like, and so um, it I found it there's a huge gap in learning Afan Oromo and being involved in the community. Will close that gap, hopefully, eventually, especially for like younger than you guys' age, and that motivates them to learn. Um, so, with that, are you guys involved in humanitarian work that has connection with Oromo, and Oromo causes, or um, like just to make it, like get more of your Oromummaa learn? Are you involved in the communities? Ate, especially, are you making connection? Is there local Oromo people that you're making connection to, to learn more? I know you say you wanted to go back home, and I don't know, like in the interview, you say you want to go back home, Oromia, and learn about your grandparents and stuff. Are you involved in humanitarian work that does advocacy or help work with back home with Oromia and Oromia?
That question is for me, right?
Yes, and
Okay.
Sarti too. Sarti, I
Okay.
think you mentioned, but you can say more. Go ahead, Tay.
Oh, okay. So for me, I think that advocacy is definitely still growing. Um, I think that, and I feel like it started growing a couple of years ago, but then, of course, with the intensification of just those spirits showing up more, they've been like, it's like been like extra training. I feel like, of like just how, just making sure that my like political beliefs and things like that just stay in alignment. To Oromia and like defending Oromia, and defending Blackness as well, just as a whole. And so, yeah, I would say that that's something that's still growing. But how it looks like for me, like in a specialized version, is also just making sure to grow my own relationships, my own like spiritual relationships to like those Oromo spirits, those Oromo divinities who show up, just following my own instruction that I've received, just because there's a lot of memory that needs to resurface, different spirits who need to be elevated, and different like practices and traditions that they keep trying to bring up, and so it's important for me to continue my studies so that they're able to like communicate that to me in the ways that they want to, so that way I can bring it to like the physical, like the alive people basically, and like help just like contribute and make sure that like things are again like are staying in alignment, uh to like these Otomo spirits and Otomo divinities, because I think it's just a really unique position, to be in, and like what's going on like with how many African American people have East African heritage, and like people who already work with spirits, these again like these Otomo spirits are finding us, and just like letting themselves be more known, and so there's a lot that they're trying to pass on to us so that we can pass it on to the rest of everybody else, because unfortunately there's just been a lot of just like impacts by colonialism and like an adjacent to colonialism, that like in Oromia, that make it really hard to hear those spirits, because there's a lot that's gotten messy and messed up over time, and it's like those some of those spirits with how they're like we didn't say that, or like that's let this baby in, why are you doing this, like why are you like still saying that, like just different things like that. And so what we're trying to do is like re-identify certain principles that these spirits are actually talking about, and making sure that we're helping to make sure that like just again like making sure that like colonialism, and whiteness and anti-blackness isn't getting in the way of like our connections to each other, really. Does that make sense?
Yes, it
Okay.
does.
Thank you.
I know you guys are learning about Gada system,
Yeah.
and so you get more from there too. So, how about you, Sartu?
So you're asking about humanitarian work?
Yeah, like, are you involved, um, like in humanitarian work that works with Oromia, like health organization, or the the aid organization that works with Oromia region, or Ethiopia, or like that has to help like Oromo advocacy and stuff. Are you?
So currently, no. I guess other than Ola, I don't really know of many. So maybe if I find out about them, I'd definitely be willing to join and do my part. I guess I just don't know about too many humanitarian organizations. Um, but like I said, I only started volunteering with Ola like pretty recently, like last year, and that was kind of my first step into joining Oromo organizations. If I learn about more, I'm definitely open to joining them, but I just don't know about too many at the moment.
Okay.
Sartu, how did you learn about Ola?
So I actually took Ola's first Afan Oromo class, and then I took the
Oh.
second one. So I was like a part of that first group.
Mm-hmm.
That I think that was October of 2020. Yeah. So and then they were looking for TAs for their kids class, and then it didn't work out with my schedule. And then
Oh.
they reached out to me again, and then I was like, "Whoa, of course, I would love to join." So yeah, so I learned about Ola because I took their level 1 and level 2 Afan Ormo classes, and that also really helped me. Like, I feel like 2020 really pushed, or like after Hachabi's death, like people really
Mm.
started doing more, and they put out classes, and so that really helped me learn because I took Ola's Afan Ormo classes, and then the community in Toronto also had Ormo classes, so I was taking
Oh,
everything,
wow.
anything that I could find. Um, but yeah, that's how I got involved with Ola.
I love that.
That's very impressive. I know, like a child's death, especially even my son is 14. It made so much impact on them. Like they're like, oh, you can't say anything Amharic, this is Oromos, and he has his flag. He bought the flag, Oromo flag, like, and then put it in his room. And everything is Oromo,
Oh.
song is Oromo. It was so amazing phenomena that our community, especially Oromo, in diaspora, Oromo community in diaspora went to, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's a big change that he brought, his death or Ajalu's death brought. So with that, I wanted to ask you guys how much of Oromummaa is out there in the young people.
Oh, that's a good question.
Your
Wow.
observation.
It's a very good question.
That's so intense. Okay.
I feel like Ormo was out there.
Just feel comfortable.
No. I feel like Ormo was out there. It's just out there in different stages. So like
Ooh.
like someone might be just beginning to learn about
Yeah.
their Oromummaa and what it is to be an Oromo in their language, whereas somebody else could be an expert. They could be fluent, they know everything, and then there are people along the way. So I think that we have to like acknowledge that different people are at different stages of learning,
Mm.
and that maybe for them to learn Oromoma, they have to unlearn other things, maybe that
Yeah.
they learned from other people or just the community that they grew up in. So kind of we have to cater to everybody in our community, but also we have to have the resources for people to catch up to one another and get to
Mm.
where we like need them to be to make significant change.
Mm.
That's very impressive. How about you,
Yes.
Tay? What's
I
your
second what Sartu
observation?
says. No, I really do second that. That was actually great. That was great. I just want to affirm that. I want to say that. Yeah. I don't think I have anything else to add.
Okay. Okay. Uh, and so the other one, Ola's like Ola's um, uh, part of the facilitation that Ola's making now. So how much did it help you? I know they're doing an amazing job, and especially with advocacy, and then now coming with Afan Oromo, teaching young people Afan Oromo, and or even those adults that wanted to learn Afan Oromo. Um, uh, can you talk a little bit about Ola and their parts in this, in learning Oromummaa and Oromo,
Mm.
in advocacy and kind of instilling um, search for our identity or keeping our Oromummaa identity? Can you?
Yeah, so I
I
think
hope
Ola's
it's not
doing
a
a
test question, but
oh.
It's okay.
So I would say Ola's doing a phenomenal job because they're not like the organization has like different parts to it, right? They have advocacy, they have women and children, they have leadership, they have education. So they're really covering, the main basis that people need in regards to like Oromummaa and providing leadership opportunities for people. So I volunteer in education, so that's why Tay and I know each other because we are in the class together. And even like within education, providing fun Oromo classes. They ran a kids class, and then they had a Gada class. They're planning to run a Gada class. They got a Gada class again. So if you're interested, please do sign up. So really providing, like I said, providing the resources for people to learn. Right? They're giving you the classes. They're giving you the means. You just have to take the opportunity. Right? And obviously there is a fee to pay, but you need to be willing to do that because if you're willing to learn and you're willing to support your community, then a monetary fee should be nothing.
And
Um,
there's financial assistance.
and there's financial assistance, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, and like advocacy, they're doing amazing work. We see like the Humans of Oromia pieces that they're putting out, right? Them petitioning to Congress, advocating for certain, bills to be passed. Like they're really doing the groundwork for Oromos. And I think you as an Oromo or non-Oromo, if you're interested, do come out, get involved, right? This is like amazing work that they're doing. And everybody should be involved and we should all try to join and contribute to do our part.
thank you. How about you, Tim?
So with Ola, I feel like Ola is a game changer. I think it's a game changing organization just with what it's doing. Like Sartu was also saying, it's just they're covering such a variety of topics. And so it's like you don't. It's like it's pretty easy to look at their website, for example, or look at their organization and like figure out a place of where you might want to be within the organization. Or and like I think that Ola also makes it accessible to introduce you to like other parts that maybe you weren't interested in before, but like they're like, but we're still gonna tell you about this, and like we're still gonna make sure you know like the gist of this. Like even in their newsletters, I'm thinking about like they're so well rounded. I was very impressed when I like signed up like as a member and started getting the newsletters, because it's not just about like, okay, the classes, things like that. Here's the registration days, the logistical information, but also they're keeping us in touch with what's actually happening on the ground, on a weekly basis, with such like critical events that's happening, giving us the faces of these different people who we need to know about. And I think that that's something that's so important. Again, like they're making it accessible to us. And when it wouldn't have necessarily been accessible to us otherwise, especially when we know there's so many other narratives out there that are just like trying to like wipe us out and like wipe out our narratives and things like that. And so yeah, Ola is a game-changing organization. There's a lot of care that is embedded into it, and including the staff members, the staff people who they hire. Like there's not one person who I've met so far who I'm like, oh, they don't care about us, like that type of thing. Like it's always a good experience. Like, and there's always genuineness. And for me, that's really important because that tells me that for me in the position that I'm in, for people who are like me, it's safe to pass on this as a resource to other people who are like me. For other African American people who have East African heritage, who want to know more of how to speak the language, probably because their spirits are trying to press them to speak the language. And so it's a good resource. And I even got to recommend the website and the organization to my cousin, who's like, she's a way older lady. Like I think she's either in her 60s or 70s. And she's always calling herself a senior citizen. She's like, I'm a senior citizen. Look at me. But I had sent it to her too because she's on my father's side of the family, and that's where we get our Otomo heritage from. It's on that side. And so she is someone who she's always open to learning more about our ancestry, things like that. I think she's actually the person who found me because we only recently connected about a year ago, actually. and that was actually on ancestry.com. Like, I didn't do the DNA test, but she found me through our family trees because they matched up. Anyway, so she's also interested in this type of stuff. And so very recently I got to send her this information. I said, oh, I guess while you're giving me these updates, I should give you these updates as well. And I just thought that was a really beautiful option, like to be able to do that. Ola is a resource in so many different ways. And so I just really appreciate that. And even similar to what I was saying before, it's like, with all of this care that's in it, mm, including like in the staff members, the people who attend these classes, we gain like elders, like we gain like people to go to practice with. We gain a cohort with one another, and that's really important, especially if we do happen to be, you know, spread out like in a place where there's no other people like who are, you know, speaking Afan Oromo or of Oromo heritage, like who are around us in the physical world.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much. That's very impressive, very impressive, and I can see us, I can see you guys like carrying it, and uh, our Oromummaa, but you know, like lasting for generations to come. So with that, I wanted to ask you a couple questions, and we should be done soon. Can we do better to keep our heritage, to keep our Oromummaa grow, to keep our Oromummaa known in America or in diaspora, and what can we do better? I'm sure we have a lot to do. Start to mention a few things, but since we are all at different level, start to brought a so big point. What can we do better?
I think obviously with anything there's always a room for improvement, right? You can never be perfect. But I think that we have a good foundation, right? We have like media, right? There's new media that's coming out. If you look at like the music that's coming out of Oromia, like it's flourishing, right? Whereas like compared to maybe,
Art, yeah,
yeah,
songs.
art, music, all that stuff is flourishing. Whereas like a couple of years ago, that wasn't the case. So yeah, and like we said, Ola, other organizations that are possibly out there are doing the groundwork. So I think just supporting what's out there and help, doing the groundwork, building it up, but as well as like supporting new ideas from people. There are lots of new medias that are out there. These are people that came out with ideas, art, whatnot. So supporting our people in whatever ideas and that they want to start, but also supporting the people that are already there, that have built, these great organizations and media. Yeah, so like that. And focusing on the youth. We need to focus on to bridge that gap that you talked about, and even just bringing the youth together and sort of accounting that for that difference in people's levels and where they are in Oromummaa, and kind of like catching us all up to one another.
About your Tay?
Yeah, I think we need more intergenerational moments. I think we need more opportunities to be able to sit together and like learn each other's stories, and that's something that, you know, this with the result of this class, this Ola class of Afan Oromo one, there's been like some little creative projects that people have been talking about, like from the class. Like, I'm gonna name Bertukan here because she had like a really beautiful idea that was in relation to just collecting the stories of Oromo elders, including Barsisa, because we had talked about that. Well, she had talked about that. And so I think like it's just different creative projects that we need to be supporting. And also that includes like working more with our elders, and like what Sartu was saying of working with the kids as well, the little babies. And yeah, I'm excited. I feel like we need to just, as soon as we hear those ideas, like somebody say an idea that's like that, like gas them up, like really just encourage it so strongly, and just like let each other know that we can do it, and that, because when I first heard like some of these ideas, I was like, oh, absolutely. Now you have to do it. Now you have to do it. Like, you know, you specifically just had this idea and it was probably for a reason. Now you need to make it happen. Like, what do you need to make that happen? Do you need funds? Do you need like, you know, more people to just like know about this, like more people to do a certain thing for you? Like, just what do you need? So I feel like even just coming with that energy is so important, because I mean, you know, again, like there's just so many narratives out here, including like anti-blackness in the Western world, all over the world, but especially in the Western world, where it's like making us feel like we don't have time to really pay homage, or honor to our lineages, and that's not okay, you know, because we can make that time. We do have time, and we can also make time and support each other, like while this happens. And I also just think that that in general we do have to have more openness, to unlearning, so that we can just learn it right the first time, instead of having to like learn something and then it's like we're kind of learning the wrong information, or like slightly it's like really altered information, so then we have to like unlearn it and then learn the right thing again. No, like it should be nice that we should just be able to like ideally learn the information right the first time. And I think in order to do that, again, we have to like be able to correct different things that are going on in our community still, thinking about like the different information that's being withheld or altered to fit narratives of like transphobia, homophobia, things like that, things that are not prioritizing like the ways that things that are not prioritizing like the original traditions and ideologies that actually did support, like for example, women of our communities and other people who are just not men like of our communities. Like there's just like a lot of narratives that we do have to correct, and memories, and that includes like bringing back these like that. I think that's a huge reason of why like different Black spiritualists, Oromo descended spiritualists are coming back with these different memories and with these different you know, traditions that our spirits are trying to teach us about, because they're like, we're trying to teach the correct information, because there's a lot of things that's just, again, like, not that you're lying, but like you're also lying, like like different things like that. There's just we just have to have openness to like unlearning in this process as well.
That is very great. Very true. It's there's a unlearning part. Learning is part of unlearning. Learning, we have to unlearn some things to learn a better of things that you like you say. So it's very. I'm so fascinated, like how you guys are so in depth in your Oromummaa and so passionate about it. So, so with that, what is your advice for young people who wanted to learn Afaan Oromo, or who speak Afaan Oromo, or wanted to keep who they are? For me, like when I grew up, and I always love being Oromo, like you know, like sometimes like you're young but you act like an old, like you wanted to learn like adas, Afaan Oromos, and wanted to wear cultural clothes and all that. What is your advice for those people who love who they are, but it's hard for them to express it because of, you know, maybe like the areas they live in, they don't have Oromo, or they don't have any connection, or their parents, you know, our parent, people who brought us, or they work a lot, but they didn't get time to talk and teach us or pass the history or tell us the story. So as adults, or you know, young people growing a next generation that carries the history of Oromummaa, what is your advice for anyone who want to learn Afaan Oromo, who want to keep who Oromummaa intact and be proud of it? Sartu or Tay, you can.
I would say first and foremost, like if you have family members that are Oromo, I would say start from there, because they're living people that you can ask them to speak to enough on Oromo, or you can ask them like simple questions. Where did you grow up? What was it like for you? Just starting with those simple things. But if they're busy and you don't really have access to people, then I would say online. You can watch interviews. There are lots of media interviews. Personally, I like watching Afan Oromo dramas. That's my favorite pastime. I go on YouTube and I find a new one to watch. Um, so like even if I'm not communicating with people, like I'm consuming media, right? There's lots of music. Music is very popular now. And that can be a point of conversation, right? Not all music is, it's not all kanjalala, like it's not all love songs. There are some that are, a lot of them have, messages that are embedded within them that you can use that as a point of conversation, whether it be new friends that you make online, you can ask them about it, or your family members, you can ask them like, okay, what are they really singing about? Right? What is the real message of this song? So yeah, creating conversation, making friends online. I know a lot of people are online now, right?
Yes.
He has new friends online because of the class. So reach out and kind of create, if you don't have a community, create a community for yourself. It could be one person, it could be two people, it could be 50 people, but a community is more than just yourself. And I think if you start, there's always more room for you to expand. And like Tay and I, if you want to be friends, Tay and I will be your friends. Reach out to us.
That's true.
Um,
That's true.
yeah, we're open to being friends with anybody. And even if you join any of the OLA classes, we kind of build like a community within each of our cohorts, like Tay said.
Yeah.
So yeah, taking a class, take our Gada class. You can meet us there, and we can all be friends.
Yes.
Thank you, Sartre. Go ahead, Tay.
Yes, I also was going to talk about social media in particular, just because of thinking about the younger people who might be having those feelings that you were describing of just like having a sense of pride, but not really knowing what to do with it or how to express it. I just wanted to say like to keep going and specifically keep seeking each other out, like keep seeking other people out, because that's such a huge thing. And especially with the power of just the internet that's also something that's been a game changer in our communities, connecting people who we haven't been able to talk to in such long times, but also people who we probably would have never met like offline if the internet didn't exist. So I think really um, taking advantage of that and trusting that there are people out there who are like you and that you're not alone and like what you're feeling. I think that that's what the class showed me. It's just that we're just not alone. Like we all have very similar feelings at the end of the day towards like our cultures and also just wanting to preserve them, especially in the face of oppression, or multiple types of oppressions. And so, yeah, just like keep going, keep seeking each other out. And also just remember that assimilation is not the key. And, it's understandable to why, we might feel like that is like the only way that we can survive like in these worlds. But at the same time, it's also really important that we understand that that's not the only way to have like a successful, fruitful, happy life.
Nice. Thank you so much. Yes, my question is all done for now. And maybe next time we'll talk more. Um, and so, is there anything you guys wanted to add? Would like to add, like in history aspect, especially Tay, and then with advocacy aspect, Sartu, anything that with so many things going on back home, and you guys probably are aware. Do you want to add anything? Last words. Go ahead, Sartu.
Okay.
I was like, oh my gosh, I
No,
want
I
to
was
say.
thinking.
I know, I'm thinking too.
I was thinking. I would just say, be informed and do your part to learn. I feel like Oroma is kind of, although it can be cultivated in your community, I feel like it really comes from yourself. Like if you want to be involved, if you want to learn, then you will find the ways to. But if you're not interested, then you won't really build that connection. So I would say motivate yourselves, do what you can, get involved, And it can be something small. It doesn't have to be like the biggest thing. You know, you don't have to be the next big person. You know, you can start with something small, some small role, and then
Yeah.
slowly, you know, you'll progress from there. And I also want to say, if you're interested, take our Gada class with Ola. We'll be running soon. Not many people know about the Gada system. I'm still learning about it myself,
Yeah.
and I think that's one way we can reconnect with ourselves and build our Oromummaa. Is if we learn, you know, our history and this like indigenous governance system. So that would be my last message.
Parsley, you're so good at your job.
Ganito, yeah. Ganito, exacto. Go ahead, Tay. She's promoting, so that's her job. She's doing an amazing job. Go
You're
ahead,
so
Tay.
good. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was as similar to what Sarsi was saying in terms of just that we're open to friendship if you need somebody, you know, to talk to, things like that. I just wanted to say, if for anyone who wants to know more in terms of about hoodoo and connections between Oromia and hoodoo, and just want to explore more of what that is, how we are also continuing it on this particular land, that I you can also reach out to me to, you know, learn more about that as well. And that also, I mentioned this a little bit before too, but there's Tay in the Water podcast. That is a podcast that I created back in 2019, I think 2018 or 2019. And that is also full of conversations around hoodoo, Islam, war, Black gender, Black queerness, the end of this world and coming of the next, and also just indigenous African epistemologies and criminologies. And so that's also a good resource.
Thank you so much. Thank you both. And I do appreciate it. Jirra Media, appreciate you and your time. And you guys taught so many people with a very, very good points with our lineages or Oromummaa start home. I can attest to that. I am very touched. And so thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Kunsa kabuudhaan